episode of Jason and Bart Show. Hey, I got it right this time.
You did very well. Very well done.
He's Jason. I'm Bart.
Hi.
This is kind of awkward, but because we just spent like 3 days together in one place, and now we're on video.
And we recorded a podcast together.
And we did record
in the same room.
And who do we record with? Our friend and buddy, Carl Smith, who runs the Bureau of Digital, which we all love. Jason and I were at the last owner summit, which one of us actually got perfect attendance to. This guy right here.
Bart was
you
that
put
kid.
That up. I was
you were that kid in school.
I absolutely was. I told Carl, and Carl was like, "Yeah,
Yep.
you totally was." I'm like, "Yep, absolutely was that kid." I have plaques and shit.
No, it was good. It was in New Orleans. We had some fun.
Yep.
Good time.
How'd you feel about it?
I thought probably the best summit I've been to. I really do mean that. And by the way, this is also the last owner summit. If you are an agency owner out there, and you're looking for a community, I will say that this is definitely one of the best, if not the best. But yeah, no, it was in New Orleans. I thought it was great. I thought I was thinking about this today before we jumped on, and I was like, what did I like about it? And I think, all the micro stuff of how great the speakers were, and all the people that you see, and all the great conversations that you have. But what I thought was really great about it was that the format of the summit itself had evolved and become more sophisticated in order to serve the community better. That also had evolved and become more sophisticated over the last 8, 10, 12 years, right? Yeah. That these events have been going on. Like, I really saw real maturation, both with the people attending as members, but obviously also with the Bureau itself, really recognizing what its members need and really being able to evolve and all that. And as far as this being the last owner summit, I just thought they knocked it out of the park. I thought they always have great speakers, but the topics in particular that I thought were great. Did you have a favorite talk or a favorite topic?
I think the division line of day 1 to day 2 was interesting. I feel like day 1 was like, here's some stats, here's operations, this is what it is, right? Whereas day 2 was more like a lot of feeling, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of, I have a lot of feelings about the summit because I've been through every single one of them, and it has changed over the years.
Yeah.
I think we all grew up trying to figure out how many there was, and it was like, oh my God, like the career of the current business I have is being going to that. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, it's been favorite one.
Or one that you found most interesting, I guess. I don't know.
The most interesting, I think the 2 women. I always forget their name. I've seen them speak before. They're amazing. Just the idea that like they needed to take a break, and they did.
And Johnny,
yeah, that was kind of interesting. And I talked to one of them later on. She said, "Yeah, we're just done for 6 months, and see where we come out on the other side of it, what we want to do." And I'm like, it speaks a lot to me. That kind of thing.
I think that word transparency really is what makes this community so awesome, right? Is that people aren't afraid to stand up. Successful people, by the way, aren't afraid to stand up and go like, "Hey, I freaking hate this. I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah.
And there's a lot of comfort in that, right? Because I think every entrepreneur certainly wakes up and has plenty of those mornings over a long enough timeline. Right. So right. Hearing other people who, by the way, and I've heard them talk, right. So we were at Owner Summit last year in Orlando, yep. And they talked very different talk.
Yeah.
Like the way that they felt about what they were doing a year ago versus how they feel about what they're doing now. And I think that spoke to, I don't love this phrase, but like that owner burnout thing. And I thought, to your point about the second day being about health and wellness, a lot of health and wellness stuff, which I think is really important, because this is for the most part, it is a marathon. There aren't too many entrepreneurs getting into digital agencies and being like, well, in 2 years, I'm out with an awesome exit. No, like it takes a long time to really work up and grow a business to to a place like that. And you
Yeah.
know, as you go through over that long period of enough time, you know, you are going to experience these things, and also you change, you know, as you age, and life changes, and what you want to do changes, all that, right?
Yeah, I had a funny conversation at the happy hour afterwards with uh, Becky McGinnell and Greg Henry about how, because we were trying to figure out how many years Summit was going on,
Hmm.
and we're trying to how long Becky and I know each other for. It was like she was like, oh, it's like 4 years. I'm like, no, it's a lot longer than that because blah blah blah. She's like, oh my god, it is. Um, but then it was like, we all average age of agency in the crowd was probably 10 to 15 years.
Oh, of the
Um,
companies. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so like you guys are about what, 10, 15, something like that, right? A little over
Was
15.
23. So what is that? 16, 17, something like that.
Right. We're gonna be 13 on Sunday. Um, Sarah said she was 23, but like all of them, but we all kind of grew up with it, right?
Hmm.
Where are the youngsters? They're starting
Right,
agency in this thing,
right.
right? There is none. Like you look at that whole crowd, you're like, there isn't that crowd. We all kind of grew up that way, and the ages are about the same, but like, where's the rest of it?
I feel like there's like that 35 to 55-year-old demographic, and then it's kind of
Mhm.
bifurcated into like 35 to 45-year-olds who, you know, if you've been doing it now for 10 or 15 years and you're
Yep.
35 to 45, like your business, you know, you've been successful and your business is maybe starting to really get some traction right now, and you've had a few good years in a row, and it's all about how do you sort of maintain that momentum. Oh, by the way, you're also probably either starting a family or you have started a young family. And so now you're thinking about how to leverage something that 25 years old, you were like, well, ups and downs. It's fun being an entrepreneur. Now 37, right? Kids, mortgage,
Yep.
all that stuff, right? And then you've got the kind of the older demographic, the 45 to 55 crowd, right? You'll be there soon, buddy.
I am a
I'm
whole
just kidding.
year younger than you
You
are.
get so riled up.
I
Um,
do because you do this all the time.
no, but like the 45 to 55, and like for those people, it's, you know, they are starting to think about exit. What do they want to do with the
Right.
time they have left in terms of their work, their professional careers? You know, how do they want it? You know, just because you're 52 years old and you started your business at 27 and you've been doing it for 25 years, you may not want to spend the next 25 years or the next 10 years doing what you're doing, right? Maybe there are other things now that you're 52 years old that you want to do, not just like retire. I'm talking about actually professionally develop into something else you want to spend your time
Right.
doing. And I think a lot of people are like succession planning was an interesting topic that came up while we were
Yeah.
there, right? And I think you're starting to see more and more people think about succession planning, and there's a perfect example of maturity. There's something 10 years ago people were not talking about at Owner Summit at all,
No,
right?
at all. Yeah.
So here we are a decade later plus, right? And we're seeing sort of this evolution. It was just really cool to see. I loved Pete. It's funny. Day one, I agree with you. There was a little bit more ops and all that, but the one that stood out to me actually was Peter Kang's talk.
Oh yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because I it's funny. A lot of people were asked. I asked him a question afterwards. I was like, a lot of people ask him like, oh, has your writing translated to sales? You know, the clients come and find you because
Right.
you write
Right.
about what it's like to be an agency owner, and all, and, you know, he really let you inside. Now, Peter definitely does like put stuff out there like, hey, here's how we do profit sharing, or here's how we do this, or here's how and he'll give you like spreadsheet, like
Yep.
he's super magnanimous, like, and generous. But he also really talks about like kind of how he's going through making decisions, and both in his
Yep.
personal and professional life, right? Within the construct and context of running the agency. Um, and I actually asked him, I was curious how it had done for him in terms of talent acquisition instead of client acquisition. Because like if I was an employee at Barrel, like I would definitely read something like that my CEO is writing, right? Because it's giving me insight to who this person is. How do they
Yeah.
think? And they're actually being cool enough to share, like, this is how I feel about my company, right? And so if I'm
Yeah.
helping them, working with them, helping them, right, as an employee or whatever, like to me, that's gold. You know, you can really do a lot with that. So I was kind of curious, and he and he turned to me, he's like, I don't think anybody reads it at my
No,
company.
he doesn't. I mean, in reality, I know exactly
I
what
mean, he
he
does
does.
it for
He
us,
writes
right?
a
But yeah.
no. he writes for himself. That's it.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
all he
oh,
does.
that's
He
true.
writes for himself, and he always done that. Like I know Peter,
It's pretty
I know Peter for a
cathartic
while
for
too.
him.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like if you have, and you know this, you're an agency owner, like you get stuck in your head a lot. Like I have so many things bouncing in my head, and I told you that before we left, right? I was like, I need you to get whiteboard and write it out because it's in my head. What's next and how we do stuff and all that. So it always, and this is like months off bouncing in my head. And what I realized listening to Peter, I think I should do that anyway. Just write it out every day or whatever else. Just write it out. Just get it out of my head. Just write it out. Right? Like it's a weird, it's cathartic. It works,
Yeah,
but
for
it gives
sure.
you the clarity of what it's supposed to be out there. You
Yeah, I'm starting to
Um,
consider like doing what like writers or comedians do, where they always have like a notepad with them, like a small one at all times that they can kind of stick in their pocket, and like as they get,
I
ideas or
record. Yeah, I record a lot.
I
So
guess yes, everybody can use
yeah,
their
that's
phone now.
easier. It's
I'm
faster
old.
sometimes.
I'm old.
Um, yeah. Overall is great. There's a few hiccups there, here and there.
What did you think of some of the agency like state of the industry stuff from Nick in
Not
terms of
surprising.
yeah.
Very not surprising. Those numbers were, even though it's just 99 agencies, it's still not surprising. I actually did not answer. I meant to do it. It's in my folder and forgot, but I don't think I would skew anything. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing over and over and over. Like for the past, I think they've been doing it for 4 or 5 years.
Mm.
I know exactly where we fall. Not surprised on any of the findings. And that has to do with just talk to a lot of agency owners all the time. So it's easier to do, right? Uh, no, not surprised. Um, Surprised at the 4 day work week. That was funny. Uh,
That was a hot topic running
yeah,
around a bit. Not the hottest
it
topic,
was
which
funny
was
because Greg. Yeah, we had a conversation later, and somebody's looking at it as hours a lot. If we only produce 28 hours, like if I want them to produce 20 hours, then we could go to 4 week if they were producing 32 hours. And I'm like, why is that a math problem? Yeah, I just don't get it. It's like it's 5 days a week. It's summers, yeah, but also like you get to work from wherever you want. So I don't really like.
the one way it
Never
makes sense
been
to
like
me is
hard
this,
about it.
or kind of the only way it makes sense to me is to kind of stagger it, and have maybe two groups doing a Monday to Thursday and a Tuesday to Friday, so that you actually still get 5 day. I mean, maybe if you're, I guess it's like maybe if you're a product company, that can work a little bit better. Although I still think you need customer support like 7 days a week, right? But like services is tough. Clients want to talk and they don't care if it's Friday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
And I don't think
we try not
after you've
to.
gone to them 3 times in the last 30 months and raised rates on them, and you're going to, oh, by the way, after raising rates on you 3 times in the last 30 months, we're also going to stop working 20% of the week. Like at some point, I
I
don't know
don't
where the breaking point is with this stuff. These
see.
ideas are just, I don't know. For small
Yeah,
businesses, I think they're outrageous, but
I
whatever.
also look at it as maybe that. It's more of think looking at it straight numbers, as in we have employees that will
You're in
start.
client services. Unless every one of your
Oh,
clients works 4 days
I
a week, you should
understand
not
that.
work 4 days a week. I don't know. I don't know why. Here's a math problem.
Saying-
Five
I'm
days are
not.
5 days.
I'm not
Like,
saying
what
that
is
we
that?
couldn't work 5 days. I'm not saying that. I'm saying like for us, we try not to have calls on Friday afternoons because we can't solve shit
Sure. I mean,
for clients,
yes.
right? It makes no sense, right? Yes, we still do work and stuff like that, but we have people who will start at 8 and be done by 4 or 3 because they're picking up their kids. Like we're trying to be a lot more looser, but they also don't understand when there's a call an afternoon that we have to do. They'll adjust it. It has happened, but that's like
Yeah.
adjusting those kind of things is easier than just like, well, we only do 4 weeks. I mean, you could do 4 days if you really want to.
I don't think
And nobody
I,
really wants to talk on a Friday afternoon.
I, you and your team may not want to, but your clients sometimes have to talk to you on a Friday afternoon. If you're delivering technology and something goes wrong, I got news for everybody. Like you're going to get a call. And if you're like, well, I'm sorry,
Don't launch
my
on a
team
Friday.
needs 3 day weekends every single week, no matter what.
No,
Then
that's
that doesn't matter if you don't actually say that to them. Every client is going to take it that way, especially again in an environment where their vendors have been raising rates on them for 2 straight years. Like I don't know how much longer we all think that we can keep these people over a barrel. At some point, they're going to push back, and they're going to push back hard. And
Yeah,
I just like I don't know. We're in client services. It is services. You have to be available to your clients when they are working. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't know.
I love that. No, you're not the only one. Trust me. This strong opinions of some of the people is interesting. But it's funny
Because
how that,
it's not about hours. We give unlimited PTO, and we give every flexibility. And I personally don't care if your kid has a soccer game at 3:00 on Thursday. If you want to go to the soccer game, go to the soccer game. If you've got something due Friday morning, either get it done before you go to the soccer game or come back to work after the soccer game. But go to the soccer game. I don't care. To me, it's not about managing to the hour. It's about being available and providing value to your clients.
delivering. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Deliver your stuff. Yeah, it's interesting.
Could you imagine a law firm going, I'm sorry, we're just not gonna be here one day a week for all your legal troubles. It's like, no. People need their lawyers when shit goes bad, they need their people. That's what we're in. Like, it's professional services. This is what we do.
I love rallying you up. It's the best.
It doesn't take much on this subject because I don't know.
There's a lot of subjects this week that were just like, I'm like, yeah, I think we're stepping too far into things. Because it's like, at the end of the day, our job is to make it wrong.
Well, I was talking about I think empathy and servant leadership are super important. You have to have those things, I think, in this environment if you're going to be a true leader and people are going to follow you, right? I think those are really important. Right. But I think what we've lost a little bit of sight of is it is a symbiotic relationship, and the people that you are empathizing with and the people that you're serving, they owe you accountability back, right? And what I'm seeing out there when you read and you talk to people is, I don't feel like I'm getting back. Deadlines get missed. The quality isn't as good. I can't mentor people as well as I used to. There's a lot of that going on out there, right? And I think part of it is because we went through this scare of God, our people are super stressed, and there's this pandemic, and then after that, it's like, oh, they can go work anywhere and get any job they want for as much money as they want. Well, then I better really, really, really give them everything they want, because that's the only way I can get them. But at some point, they've got to turn around and it's up to you to hold them accountable to delivery. You just said the word before. That is just,
if it's not delivered, client won't pay. That means you guys don't get paid. We've had
this, spike in business over the last 18 to 20 months that everybody's had. So everybody's a little bit flush right now. And we're all, I feel like it's are we kind of kidding ourselves? I feel like it's going to roll over at some point, and then we're all going to go, oh my God, how did we get here? 4-day work weeks, dude. No, just kidding. No, actually, I thought the definite dominant topic by far was AI.
Stuff.
And some very cool stuff that we saw, actually. Some people, obviously, I think what's interesting is, LLMs. I'll say it properly because I know you hate it when I say AI, right?
You can say AI. It's fine. It's the buzzword. You have to say it. It's fine.
But I think that it is also sort of bifurcating kind of into the people who know it a little bit better than the people who kind of don't know it at all. And that is creating this, maybe a little bit of over comfort with people who are getting to know it really well, and maybe over fear with people who are not really utilizing it. Or let me rephrase. We saw straight up resistance to its integration into whatever, right? And it was around the element of we're for humans, right? And it, to me, that is fear. I'm sure that when the car came around, they said the same,
and then you have the other side, like you just said. It was it's just going to replace everything, and you're like,
right, and it'll do everything, and it's really just about prompting, right? It's just the prompting solves every problem,
right. And we had a conversation about the idea that in the short term, the prompt engine thing, sure, right? But that's not going to be a thing.
I thought you made that was a great point you made. Can you? So we were having this conversation, and I was it's funny. I was actually a little bit more on like, oh, prompt engineers, this is gonna be the thing, right? And Bart like totally was like, well, he
No.
said something really smart as usual, and he was like, no, dude, it's gonna be integrated into
Yep.
everything already. So you're already gonna know how to do it,
Yep.
right?
The idea is
Um,
that the prompt engineering like job, everybody's hot on it right now. That's going to disappear at some point. It's the idea that remember when you would have to go back to really far when Excel came out, right? Excel was the or what was before Excel? Uh, shoot, whatever the spreadsheet stuff was, right? Spreadsheets Online came out, and then Excel came out. There's only a few people that knew how to use them properly. But I don't use them every day, but I can still open it and do it. You know what I mean? Like there is at some point everybody's just going to be a natural course of this is
but I
how you
think,
use Word, this is how you use Excel, and the prompt thing is just going to be built in. Whereas like search engines and all stuff like that. I'm not saying this is going to happen overnight. It's just going to happen because
but you
people
can
will
build,
get used to
you and I can build a spreadsheet, but like if we want to run like macros and slicers and
right.
all this stuff that is expert
Sure, you
level
have to be
Excel
farther,
stuff, right?
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, but that's the same thing, right? It's not going to be a job. It's just going to be built in as a thing. Like you're
Mm.
going to have specialists, sure, but it's not going to be very like the hotness of prompt engineering.
I
It's
thought,
not
yeah,
going
I
to be.
thought that was, I just thought that was a great, that's a great point.
It's
Because you,
listen.
you
It's
said
going to
it's
be
like
hot
Microsoft
for
Office. Yeah.
yeah. It's going to be Microsoft Office. It's going to be part of a skill set that you have to put in your resume in 5 years.
Right.
That's it. Can you actually write prompts? That's it. What was
Well,
funny
and
about it
I
is
think they'll also get niched out too a little bit, right? Because like
yes,
everything will have
yeah,
like a little
absolutely,
sub
of
economy
course,
to it. They'll be like, oh, take these special
absolutely,
classes for finance, take these special classes
sure.
for, yeah.
Absolutely, right, and there's, like, there's people who know Excel, like, back of their hands and do magic things with it, right?
Oh yeah.
Same thing, the same thing things, right? Um, it's gonna be like Office or any tool that you use for it's just part of that, right? Especially when they're building into Office and things like that.
Mm.
They're building these tools into these things, so it's gonna be ambiguous, it's gonna be just there. What was funny to me was everybody talked about AI, but then when I started showing some of the things I do with it from what we do even with this podcast, and people
Right.
were like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
So just using that, like I use it for efficiency for us, right? To do things faster. To me, it's always been funny. Because people like we've seen people go really deep. They're like, "Oh, well, this is great," um, and it's going to replace everything. I'm like, "Yeah, that's a ways away."
What I did come away with though is like I have to make a concerted effort to make it a recurring part of my week to educate
Yep,
myself as much as I
play
can.
with it. Yep,
And
play with
yeah,
it.
and
Do
really get into
absolutely.
it because I think this is not one of those things you can kind of just, I don't know, fake your way through.
No.
Because to your point, it's just going to be so integrated,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
The resistance side of it was interesting. Um,
like I,
I
I
think
appreciated where it came from.
I do
This
appreciate
idea of
the
like
input.
we have to keep human beings in all jobs everywhere and yada yada yada. But like I don't know, history shows us that's just not how it works. And yeah, I was before we came down to the event, I had seen a stat that said two-thirds of the jobs that exist today did not exist in 1950. Right.
Yeah.
So in another by 20, so that in another what 70 years, so by the end of the century, two-thirds of the jobs that exist today will not exist. That this is the natural evolution. People will do other things, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, and I also thought it was like I just think with AI too, like it has that special where it is a little bit different than kind of other people are like, oh, it's just a fad and this, that, and the other thing. Where it's a little
Uh,
different is like we have such deep roots with the pop culture aspect of this thing because for 40 years we've been
yep.
watching stuff that basically is telling us like this is coming and it's all been negative, right? All of it is just like we're
Yeah.
going to get replaced and it's going to be
Except for
violent and
one, right?
terrible.
Except for one, the
Which
internet.
one?
The internet itself.
I mean, I was just talking about like movies and pop culture, like
Oh yeah,
between
yeah,
the
yeah.
Matrix or Ex Machina or
Right.
Terminator, like all the things
Yep.
that AI and machines and all the rest of it, right? It never seems to end well for us in the long run, right?
Right.
But like, I think we carry that into this particular technology. I think I will say also, I think especially as Americans, I was talking to some international folks, right, and they were like, yeah. we're not really as like conspiracy theorists about, you know, AI and all the rest of it as you are. And I'm like, yeah, because we've been pumped into it. Like Terminator was like
Yeah,
1983, right? That's 40
yeah,
years of this stuff. So, I mean, Space Odyssey, you can go back even further, right? But like, this has always been sort of the connotation of AI or advanced intelligence or whatever, right? And like, it's always been negative. So I think human beings are going into it with this fear of we will be replaced. It may be benevolently or it may be violently. I don't know, right? But they're going into it with this idea of like, oh, you know, we're going to get replaced. And I think I said to you, I was like, you know, the difference is between this stuff and human beings is this stuff doesn't have an ego.
yep,
It doesn't
yeah,
think it can't be replaced. It probably knows it will be replaced several times over in several iterations that go on every single day. But human beings sit there and go like, I am irreplaceable. There are things about me that are so unique to me that you cannot. And I think, yeah, there are some, but if in the context of a business conference, which is where we were, and talking about how you scale and grow and all that stuff, I
yeah.
mean, this there's this thing where like, oh well, if you just enhance everything and you make everything high quantity, that you lose quality. And this technology is basically saying, no, you don't have, that doesn't have to be the case anymore.
Doesn't have to be a case, right?
You can blow it up and maintain quality again if used properly and all that stuff, right? But like that
Yeah,
is the thing. So that was a really I agree with you. It was a super interesting dynamic.
yeah. It was as much as that little hiccup there was whatever it was. But if you kind of step away from it a little bit and look at the dynamic of the room and sort of what was happening, it was like, as this is what's happening in real life. Like this is what it is, right? Which was interesting. Um, you missed a fun end of the thing. We had a whole
Yeah,
parade going on. That was a fun time. Have a little
that's awesome.
video that was cute. Yeah. Then we had a happy hour, and everybody kind of went on their. We had dinners and hanged out with people, so that's fun. It was interesting.
It was
Um,
great. You know, as always, you know, you see friends, you know, people that you've been going to these things with for years and years, and you kind of developed relationships with,
it's a
and then
good.
you meet a lot of new people,
Yeah,
which is
it's a
also really cool.
good group therapy.
It is, it is good. It is good group
And I gotta
therapy.
say, the obviously being around it for long, I had friends, like we met.
Yep.
It's nice to have sort of a group of people who kind of go through the same things, and you can be open about it. Like this is what's happening. You're not hiding things. This is, it's nice. It's nice to have that kind of
Somebody
support.
wrote somewhere there's like there's not like a hint of competition at these events. Like
Oh,
it's all about
yeah.
collaboration and again that transparent. I think that transparency and that provides authenticity, which makes it a better experience for everybody. Because once you feel comfortable, then everybody starts to share. The more everybody starts to share, the better the quality of the event is, and the more interesting topics you talk about, and everybody goes, "Oh yeah, that's the same with me,"
And, then-
right?
and
Nobody will raise
yeah,
their hand and say it's them.
and not obviously, Carl and the bureau has helped me in my business and helped you in your business. But it was
Sure.
funny because in passing, people I haven't, seen all the time around, a lot of them were like, thank you, Carl, for, this helped us, immensely. And then there's a whole bunch of thank yous. It was said multiple times, like, thank you, Carl, for like, and that's, we appreciate it. It works. I
Look,
mean,
it
and this community is so different than anybody else.
yeah,
And you're like, if you come into the community with preconceived, like, oh, it's like any other community, they're not like you have to get into the boys club and the circles. No, you don't. All you have to do is walk up to somebody, and that we're all welcome about it. And I mean,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that happened.
100%.
Yep. Well, sir, we
Cool,
have an
man.
exciting. We're gonna, yeah, our episode with Carl, should hit Tuesday, by the way. Hopefully,
Nice.
I have enough time to edit
Definitely
it out.
check that out. That was an awesome, and Bart did such an amazing job with the
It
setup.
was our first live one, like in person, which was awesome.
It'd be amazing what can be done like with so little stuff. It was super cool. It was really cool. It's like I'm gonna say it was like nanotech, but I'm not a technologist, so I was like, this feels like fucking nanotech, right? Yeah,
I
like,
think
okay,
Jason and Will and
get to
Carl
edit
were
that.
very excited about my whole rig, which is literally almost nothing.
I think it was just the magnetized microphones. I got really excited about that. That was good.
Yeah, they were great. They were
That
fun.
was good.
Anyway, thank you for listening to us blab around like we always do. You
Are we
guys,
doing our
oh my god, yes. I think I forgot about it, which is really weird. I might be just tired, but
That's all right.
I'm actually literally just flew from there, so
Don't blame you. I'll go.
uh,
What am I obsessing over? Um, oh, what am I obsessing over? So there's this. I won't go into a lot of detail because there's more detail, but like, there's this theory, not theory, but there's this sort of, I guess theory, whatever that I'm reading about in this 0 to 1 book by Peter Thiel about definitive pessimism, definitive optimism, indefinite pessimism, and indefinite optimism, and it's super interesting to read this theory as it pertains to business and startups and all that, but also how it just pertains to general like society and just sociology and all that. So that's
I'm
interesting to me right now.
what I'm gonna tell you is kind of cheesy, but I'm obsessed with you being obsessed about that and the whole living longer thing.
Oh, I'm
Because I've
obsessed.
heard you say this over the past three days
Yeah.
about 5 different times, and it
Yeah.
makes me giddy every time you do it because you get so like into it, and it's great.
We were talking about this, right? Like,
Because you're like, oh, you've heard this before. I'm like, no, this is great because it's like you get so deep down in it. It's hilarious. I love it.
I just like we talked about this. Like, this is the best. Like, it's an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't say that without recognizing that there's a lot of struggle in the world and there's a lot of shit going on out there, right? That we need to address. But we talk about, like, I talk about great, people are like the greatest of all time versus the best of all time. And I usually can separate those two a bit and define them. And I don't know if this is the greatest time to live in. I hope the greatest time is still out there in the future for future generations. But I mean, comparatively, this is it's just one of the most exciting times right now. And I think you're going to see a lot of change just come. And I think change, depending on how you look at life, change is exciting. I look at life as change is exciting. So
Only constant, my friend.
yeah, you sound like my dad. All right, buddy. On that note, I'm going to go
Yes,
sit on the couch and cry myself to sleep. And yeah,
see you guys next week.
see ya.